is the 13th of July, 2020. I wanted to touch on something very briefly because I firmly believe that we are going to see some tables turn as early as this week. You're going to be cast into more chaos. And what that does is render us less able to focus on the truth and give our attention to prayer and to the word and to understand that we're in a spiritual war and it's all manifesting right before our eyes. And this is for your eternity, folks. These people hunt the souls of men. You're not dealing with flesh and blood, okay? Now, this great awakening, this is all I see. Trump is up there on the 4th of July. First, he's in front of Mount Rushmore, these immortal men. And this is the words that he uses. The giants, the titans, the legends, the immortal men who built this great country.
And it will soon be greater than ever before.
Do you understand? This is who they are. And this great awakening is nothing less than them telling you that they are here. They are coming into this natural world. And Q is literally legion. It is the great old ones working in the quantum field, just like Gordy Rose tells us.
So I received this message from the heavens. These things are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens.
They tell you everything. This great awakening is literally shown to us right outside of Washington, D.C., in Alexandria. The Great Awakening. This is literally called the Awakening. And this where we go one, we go all that I see everywhere is the literal oath sworn by the fallen angels on Mount Hermon.
Where we go one, we go all.
Where we go one, we go all.
That we can read about in Enoch 6:4, the backwards 46, just like Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days. Let's look at Enoch 6:4. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heavens, saw and lusted after them, and said one to another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Semjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered, verse 4, they all answered and said, Let us swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. And they swear, they all together,
Where we go one, we go all.
And bound themselves by this oath. And there were 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves to an oath upon it. Do you understand? Mount Hermon, Donald Trump just had a settlement named after him in the Golan Heights, in the shadow of Mount Hermon. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Isaiah 14:14. And they officialized this settlement on Trump's 74th birthday, June 14th, which just happened to be the month of Saban in the 22nd day. 3-2-2. None of this is an accident, and it's all coming upon us. This insurrection, this rebellion by these oath keepers, the fallen, manifest more and more as we move forward here. And leading up to Tisha B'Av, there's so much, people. There's a gigantic ritual being performed right now. And so many people are going to be fooled. They're going to be nashat, beguiled by the serpent. The war of sons of light against this is just in your face. These are two squares on the same Masonic checkerboard. Trump's portraying the light when they are two peas from the same mystery religion, Kabbalah, Talmud, serpent pod. They are exactly the same entity. This is who they are. Do you understand? Don't be double-minded. Separate yourself. Be born again. The blood of the Lamb is the only way to the Father. But they believe they're going to go another way. Genesis 3:2, lest they take of the tree of life and eat and live forever. This is what's going on, and they're going to take as many souls with them as possible. So be separate. Be born again in Christ Jesus. I pray you're all well. Peace and grace to all of you. Amen.
Alright, so I know that I've already showed the whole Mount Hernon thing before with Paramount Pictures and everything, and I just want to make sure that while he brought this up and like showed you everything with the oath and all that stuff, I just want to make sure that this is like being adequately put on you, okay, to pray about it, because I know so many people who are quote unquote woke and accept things even to the extent that I accept things for certain things, right? But still hold on to this Q thing as if Trump is going to save you. Trump is not going to save anybody. I'm sorry to break it to you. And I know that, like, even if someone had told me 6 months ago that I would be saying this, I would not believe them. Because, like I said in my testimony, I was like wholehearted political girl. All right? So I know that it's painful to come to the reality that this is all a sham, that it's a lie, that he's a puppet. Not only is he a puppet, but he's a high-ranking puppet. So I'm going to continue on with another clip from a video. It's just one of the best clips I could find that wasn't like a whole hour long, showing how he's a Mason without him actually having to outright say he's a Mason, because not all of them have to come out and say it. They can just have certain things in plain sight, okay? So I hope that you watch it. Keep an open mind, and even if you watch it and hate it, like, just pray about it after. Pray for discernment. Ask Jesus and God to give you some kind of sign to tell you one way or another, okay? So I pray that you guys get saved, and check this out.
Most of the Western world is familiar with it. It was completed in 1983, and it is 664 feet high. That's the official reported height of Trump Tower. And before I move on, I want to emphasize the present age of that tower, because it's very interesting. In this narrative that we're looking at, and then when we add Donald Trump, who is now the President of the United States, Trump Tower was built in 1983. It's 33 years old. It was completed on November the 30th, 1983, and then it became the home of Donald Trump. Now, if we do the math, it was completed November 30th, 83. Trump was elected president on November the 8th, 2016, and then the Electoral College cast their votes for him on December 19th, 2016. So when the electoral votes were cast for Donald Trump on December 19th, Trump Tower had just had its 33rd birthday. This means the tower was 33 years old when Trump officially became the President of the United States. Now, does this have significance? Is it a coincidence? Well, let's continue and let's find out. Now, officially, Trump Tower has 58 floors, but Donald Trump added an extra 10 floors to the elevator numbers and claims that it has 68 floors. He lives in the top 3 floors in his penthouse, so in the mind of Trump, his penthouse begins on floor 66, which is an interesting number. Now, the purpose of this disclosure is to determine if Donald J. Trump is involved in Freemasonry or some other esoteric dark art or mystical belief. And folks, based on what I'm about to show you, I believe that Trump Tower offers the best evidence, and I'm about to show you why. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the members of their veiled craft will often conceal information in plain sight. and they will use symbols to represent their beliefs. And also, many religions of the occult and paganism will borrow from one another with similar doctrine. And the reason for this is because they all have the same author, also known as Satan the Deceiver. Now, watch this, folks. The Satanic Church's belief of dualism is represented by the transgender Baphomet, which possesses both male and female anatomy. The Freemasons do the same thing with their square and compass, which represents both male and female anatomy. And when we look at the ancient fertility cults of Baal worship, both the male and female anatomy were represented in the pillars, the Asherah and the grove of trees. Now let's look at Trump Tower. From the ground level, most people have not noticed that the tower's anatomy tells a concealed story, because the attention is always at the front gate of Trump Tower, the main entrance, at street level. And when Trump was elected president, a lot of people gathered and took pictures. They wanted to see the famous tower, and the New York Police Department had to set up a perimeter to block bystanders from getting too close, because it had to be declared a security site and turned into a fortress because America's new president lived there. So a lot of people focused on the front door, but they didn't really look up. Most people didn't study what was above them. When the TV cameras were there and the media was there, they didn't really talk about the outside of the building. And that's because from ground level, it's kind of hard to see what's going on above them. Now, folks, watch this. Based on what I'm about to show you, I'll say it right now. Trump Tower represents the dualism of Baal's pillars. It represents the male portion of the anatomy and the inverted triangle of Asherah and the mystical grove of trees. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Exhibit C. This is what the evidence has brought me to conclude. It appears that Trump Tower was built to be a temple, number one, and number two, it was built to be a continual invocation to the spirit world. Let me say that again, folks. Trump Tower was built to be in a constant state of spiritual invocation. And I know that sounds crazy. I know it does, but over the past few years, we've witnessed pagan rituals that celebrated the underworld. We have seen it in previous Olympic ceremonies where they did rituals. We've seen it in Super Bowl halftime shows. We've seen it during the Grammys. We saw it when the shamans opened the portals and when Anubis was paraded across the country, the jackal god that presides over the city of death. And now we have a president who is a very unique individual. He's very wealthy, and he lets everybody know that. He loves to parade his wealth in shiny things. He loves to show the display of gold and silver and precious stones. And now he's the most powerful man in the world. Now, folks, he did not get there by accident. And I also do not believe that he got there based on a prophecy by a retired fireman. I believe the fireman prophecy is false, and I've talked about that on all the programs. And I believe that I have provided evidence to prove that fireman prophecy is not true. If you want to read more about it, you can go to my website, watchmanscry.com, and you'll be able to find it in there. But Donald Trump is the most powerful man in the world, and he didn't get there by accident. I'm not saying it based on just my opinion. I'm basing it on the evidence of Donald Trump that he has revealed himself. Now, when we look at his penthouse, right here we have pictures of his penthouse. His penthouse is decorated with paintings and artwork that pays homage to the deities of ancient mythology. On his ceiling, he has a painting of Apollo on a chariot being led into the sky by Aurora. He also has Apollo on his mantle. Additionally, we can find other carved images in his penthouse. Here's one of the mythological deities Eros and Psyche. Why does Trump have this? Well, some could say it's just decoration. He's into mythology. He likes the storyline of Apollo and finds it neat. We could say that. Now, before anyone says it's no big deal, I want to remind everyone watching this of the prophecy in the book of Revelation. It's found in chapter 9, and it says, "And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. This is a prophecy of what's going to happen during the tribulation period. At some point in the future, God is going to allow the bottomless pit to be opened. He's going to allow that hatch to be opened so that demon creatures will come to the surface of the earth to lay waste to those under judgment, to those who have rejected God. And then it goes on to say that these demonic creatures have a king over them. Verse 11, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue his name is Apollyon, which is another rendition of Apollo.
In ancient Greece, Apollo was known as the god king and the destroyer. Plato wrote in Cratylus that Apollo should be feared and could only be appeased through sacrifices. In Homer's Iliad, Apollo sends death, destruction, and pestilence to a city for 9 days. Apollo came down furious from the summits of Olympus with his bow and his quiver upon his shoulder, and the arrows rattled on his back with the rage that trembled within him. He sat himself down away from the ships with a face as dark as night, and his silver bow rang death as he shot his arrow in the midst of them. But presently he aimed his shafts at the people themselves, and all day long the pyres of the dead were burning. Ladies and gentlemen, Abaddon the Destroyer is Apollo the Destroyer.
This creature's not human, folks. The principality Apollyon has several renditions, including Apollo. He is the destroyer, and his real name is Satan. Most mythology that has evolved over time is based on the spiritual battle of God versus Satan, or the fall of Satan. And the Hellenistic character of Apollo is one of those. And Donald Trump has him painted on his ceiling. When we look at the end time prophecy of the villain of the tribulation period, the coming little horn, also known as the Antichrist, we can read in Daniel 11:37, it says, "Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers." Donald Trump's father is Presbyterian. But if Donald Trump does practice the dark esoteric arts, which acknowledge underworld entities like Apollo, then this would qualify to fulfilling the verse that we find in Daniel 11:37. Because if Trump's dad was a Presbyterian, but Donald Trump himself worships underworld creatures, then neither shall he regard the God of his fathers would be fulfilled in Donald Trump. And if you're wondering, am I proposing that Donald Trump is the Antichrist? Am I saying that right now? I am not saying he is. I am saying that we need to keep him on the table as one of the candidates. Because what if he is? What if he is, ladies and gentlemen? This topic is about Trump Tower. As I stated earlier, most people at the street level only see what's going on at the street level, but they don't see what's going on above them. So now let's look from an aerial view. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the picture. This is Trump Tower before your eyes. The inverted pyramid that represents the female Asherah is built into his building. It's right there. And we also see above the inverted triangle 7 pillars rising, which represents Baal. So we have the female and the male in Trump Tower. There's another image of it. Count the points at the top of the building. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 points. And now for the grand finale. Let's zoom in on the inverted pyramid. If you're looking at this image, let's count the trees going across. 1, starting from the left, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you see it? 6 on the top. And then when we count down the right side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the same thing on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What does this mean? It means that Trump's inverted triangle of Asherah that's on his building in the exterior of his home for the last 33 years represents 666. And it doesn't stop there, folks. Look at this. The fertility cult always places a grove of trees. Trees represent the feminine. And how interesting is it that Trump's inverted pyramid is made up with a grove of trees? And also, When you're looking from afar, the trees appear to look like the private area of a woman's anatomy. It's right there, folks. Some of you are thinking I'm being crude. We're all adults. It is right there. This cannot be denied. Now, is this a coincidence? Did Trump not know what his tower looked like? Of course he did. He designed it. Here's an image of the young Trump standing over his temple. He could put his finger on the triangle and count the steps. He was proud of it. He had to know about the inverted 666 triangle. It was his design. And also when we look at the upper portion, we can see that the upper portion of the building simulates the rising pillars of Baal. And right here, it's plain to see. You can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, what does this mean? The pillars of Baal rise up, and the inverted pyramid transcends down into the earth. Now, right here's a 3D image of the tower to make it a little bit easier to see. And here's another view from the top of the tower, from the roof, looking down. And as you can see, we have the 7 points below, and then the pyramid toward the end. This is looking down. So we have the 666 pyramid sitting on 7 mountains. Here's a close-up of the 666 inverted triangle. Now, folks, here it is before our eyes. It's right here. And Donald Trump was either deliberate with the tower's design or it was an accident. But do you think it was? When we take all of the things we've looked at, I believe that Donald Trump was deliberate with the design of the tower, which completely tells the story of Baal's pillars and Asherah's fertility. And I also submit this. Because of this design, the tower has served as an ongoing invocation to the spirit world on Donald Trump's behalf. He did this so that he would be rewarded with earthly riches and power. Now let me take it even further. Trump Tower is a temple to the deities of the underworld, and his penthouse is a temple to Freemasonry. Now let's look at the interior of Manhattan's Freemasonic Lodge. This is from Manhattan's Lodge in his same town. Now look at the chandelier on the ceiling. It's round and there's 2 of them. There's a pair of them, and toward the bottom of the chandelier is a little bulb that extrudes. Now let's look inside of Trump's penthouse. Look at his chandelier. They are similar. Is that all there is? No. Freemasonic lodges will often feature the twin pillars of Jachin and Boaz. That's the name that God gave to Solomon when he built the temple for Israel that was dedicated to him. God told him to place 2 pillars on the outside and name them Jachin and Boaz. And Jachin means he will establish it, and Boaz means by his strength. So together it means by his strength, God will establish it. And often in their Freemasonic lodges, they will place imitations of Jachin and Boaz, the pair, the 2 pillars. Here we see another Freemasonic lodge, and we can see that they have the pillars in pairs. There's several images right here. Now, let's look at Donald Trump's penthouse. The pillars are installed also in pairs. So there you go, folks. The evidence is before you. And I conclude, and I am of the opinion that based on what we have seen, Donald Trump is a cloaked member of Freemasonry. And he did not become the president by accident. Now, a moment ago I mentioned that 3 presidents were given the office of an honorary Grand Master. I am also proposing this. Based on what we have seen, I am led to believe, in my opinion, that Donald Trump was given an honorary placement in the Freemasons. If he is not an active member, he was at minimum given an honorary title. And that is why the pins were placed on his staff. It was to communicate that he was acknowledging it and he was thankful for it. Based on what we have seen right here, it is my opinion that Donald Trump made deals with the elite and with invocations to the dark arts in order to become the president. Now, granted, I could be wrong. I understand that. I could be. And if it's proven that I'm wrong, I'll recant what I'm saying right here. I will repent to what I'm saying right here. But the evidence tells quite a different story. So in conclusion, here's what we have. Trump Tower features the number 666 on an inverted pyramid that is built into his building. We also have that the edifice of Trump Tower exhibits 7 sections that rise like 7 pillars of Baal. We also have that Trump's penthouse is on the 66th floor. We also have that his penthouse has mythological deities on his ceiling. He also has paintings and artwork of the deities. He possesses mythological deities in the form of statues, and his interior replicates the inside of a Grand Lodge. His chandelier resembles what we find in the Grand Lodge, and the pillars inside his penthouse are also in pairs. Now, I could go on and on.
Congratulations, guys, you made it to the end of the video. So I know that some of you, it's really hard for you to take a step back and be confronted with this kind of information, and just like the conflict inside is telling you that no, this is wrong, and that you just believe in this false hope because you hope so much that this is going to be a lie and the world is going to get better and everything's going to be fine. But I'm asking you to just pray on it. Think about it. Don't just dismiss it outright, because I had thought that again. Like I told you a little bit earlier, 6 months ago, if someone said that I would have this conviction, I would be like, no, that's not true. And I wasn't even a Q person, really. I wasn't. But I did support Trump. That's on me, I guess. So don't be dissuaded. And there's a whole bunch of people too that like send me links, and they're like, see, people have dreams about him being chosen, and oh, the prophecy. Yeah, he is chosen. He's not chosen by God. He's chosen. The book's already written. The book is already written, and we're already well into our way to get there. So read your Bible, turn off the TV, and read the Bible and get saved. Watch some videos showing you things that challenge your way of thought. Learn something. But most importantly, get a relationship with God. God bless.